Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? Jeff Mosher, Adam Kaplan here for part two of our two-part post-OTA Philadelphia Eagles roster review. On Monday in our podcast, we went through the entire offense, contracts, depth, position battles, everything you could ask for, from everything from quarterback to line to playmakers. And then today's episode, we will focus on defense and also a little special teams as well. This is a changing defense. It's got a lot of new parts. It's got a lot of positions that people aren't familiar with. Some contracts are going to factor into some of the decisions. And then they're just going to be probably at a more interesting kind of battles for certain spots, whether it's starting or backup, even top backup spots that are going to be really fascinating to watch once training camp begins. And we'll go through it all. Now, obviously, the big addition since the last week was Tartt being added as a safety who's going to come in and give some depth to the safety group. And we addressed that in an ITB TV last week. So if you haven't caught it, you should now, because it pretty much gives you all the information you need to know about why they signed him, what he's good at, what he can bring to the safety group, and how it's all going to shape out headed into training camp. So
yeah, look,
go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, like our offensive show, we also had additional notes that we had not put out yet on our show from our sources around the league and who know the Eagles and so forth. So we have a lot more information we have not talked. In fact, we probably didn't talk enough about defense in the offseason. Well, part of it's because we weren't exactly sure what the scheme would look like. We were told back in March they're going to start playing some 3-4. Well, I think we probably underestimated that. I think it's going to be a little bit more than I expected. How much more, I don't know. Well, we won't know until we get through training camp.
Right.
But as you set it up very well, they're going to be multiple. They've got so many new players. And one of the thing that we really learned this year more than ever is what the roster looks like on March 15th does not mean it's going to look like that in a month from then, a month after that, because everything changed by the draft. By the time they got done the draft, there's so much more talent now that they have on defense that they didn't have last year.
Mm-hmm.
They could really run a lot of different schemes because they've got the ability to be scheme versatile.
They absolutely do. Positional versatility as well. A lot of players who can do multiple things. Someone asked me recently, Adam, if after the Tartt signing, would there be any other signings by the Eagles before the start of camp? And I said, you know what? I think the only position you'd have your eye on at this point would be running back, maybe signing, as we mentioned in the last pod, trying to get that big running back just to have him in at camp. They do have Kennedy Brooks, the rookie free agent from Oklahoma, but that's just one guy. He's uphill battle to make the team. But I don't know that I would anticipate any other signing at any other position, unless there's just a player out there that the Eagles feel like, hey, it's worthwhile to bring him in.
Yeah, so I would give you three positions.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's all about September. It's not about August 1st. It's about what's this team going to look like in September.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to sign anyone now. In fact, the Tartt signing, we're told that multiple teams are involved, and that pushes thing to get done quickly. And we'll get to him later in the show today.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at their situation, what they really need, it's exactly the same as they needed to start free agency: a third outside corner.
Mm-hmm.
I understand you can't address everything. You're not trying to win the offseason. They've had a fantastic offseason, no doubt, but they still, McPhearson, to be clear, is absolutely their third corner. If the season started today, there's no doubt he's their third corner.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't mean he'll get through training camp as their third corner. He's got to prove himself.
Sure.
So I would say that one to keep an eye on. We had reported a month or so ago, look for them to add a corner. We said defensive back, a corner safety by training camp. They added the safety. I'm not ruling out a third outside corner. There are a couple guys out there they could look at, but the corners out there are mostly slots. There aren't a lot of maybe 4 or 5 veterans like a Joe Hayden. They don't need to go there. They don't need to, because I'm sure he still wants to start. They need someone who's in the twilight of the career, is willing to take, on average, maybe 15 to 20 snaps and be that guy who could start if somebody gets hurt.
Right.
That's what they have to look for now. Trey Waynes sounds like he was on a podcast. I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of it, but apparently he said he talked to his agent, talked to the Eagles,
mm-hmm.
his agents, Brian Murphy and Joe Panis, one of them talked to the Eagles, or they showed interest, and he knows John Gannon because he played for him.
Mm-hmm.
So he would have been a good one. He hasn't officially retired, but it sounds like he's not willing to play right now. You got Janoris Jenkins, who's in the twilight of his career, well into his 30s. Chris Harris, who's out there,
Mm-hmm.
who the Eagles had interest in some years ago, but he's more of a nickel corner. Joe Hayden, as I mentioned. Richard Sherman's going to do TV this year. AJ Boye would be a really good third corner, a guy who could start on the outside if you needed to. He could play inside or outside. He would be a good one for me. If you and I were in charge, I would want to bring him in for physical. He's in his 30s now, but I want to talk to him.
I could see that. That would make a lot of sense. All right. So what's the other position? You said 3 positions.
Tight end. Yeah. You and I have talked about this. We know Stoll's our number 2 tight end right now.
Yeah.
But if Goddard got hurt, would you be comfortable going with Stoll going forward?
Well, I mean, I think that's why they have Richard Rodgers still on the team. And if he doesn't make the team, he's on the practice squad. I mean, that's his role, to come in and be the tight end who can catch and to block if a guy like Dallas Goedert goes down. Is somebody out on the market that's going to be so much better than so much better than Richard Rodgers that you think it would be worth it for the Eagles to get?
The tight ends out there as we speak here, very early Thursday morning. Hello to the farmers out there who are getting up right now.
That's right.
Chris Herndon, who's been a major disappointment, a former draftee of the Jets and did nothing for the Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
They're just a bunch of blocking tight ends. Caden Smith, Levine Toilolo, who's 6'8" and just a blocker.
Mm.
Former Eagle legend Derek Carrier is out there.
God, he's been in the league for a while now.
Oh, I know. Was
That's
he under that? He was with Chip, right?
He
Chip?
was, yeah. He was a Chip Kelly special.
Another former Eagle legend, Jason Kroon.
Uh-huh. Yeah, see, I don't see any of those guys as any upgrades over Richard Rodgers. So
I got one. Now, this would cost some money. He's into his 30s, but he's pretty athletic. Is Jared Cook? He's still out there.
I thought you were going to joke around and say Rob Gronkowski because you were
no. We'll grab. Gronk will wait till the right time to come back. He'll get his body right for 6 months.
Jared Cook's a good name. That's a good name. Jared Cook is an interesting name.
Yep. He can catch, but he would cost money. They have enough cap space. That's not the issue. The issue is, do you want to really invest in a backup tight end? And then Kyle Rudolph, I don't think he's retired. He was cut by the Giants, but he's a really good blocker and a good red zone target.
That's a good name too.
Yep. Who Kirk Cousins once called "throw him to a sofa." That's great.
Is that a compliment or a?
It is, because he's so big. He's
okay. Because I would imagine a sofa doesn't grab the ball really well.
Right.
Like it bounces right off. It's almost like saying you got bad hands. Like you're a big target, but you don't.
I mean, Jimmy Graham's out there. He's
come on.
I know. He can't block. He's just strictly a pass catcher. So
yeah. Is Mark Bavaro out there still?
Right. Former Eagle legend Mark Bavaro. Richie Kotite special. Richie Kotite.
So of all those names, I mean, Jared Cook and Kyle Rudolph. I do like Kyle Rudolph as a backup tight end. They stand out. So perhaps that's a situation where it's a week before camp. These guys are still available, and their price tag at that point is, I'll take anything then you bring them in to compete and see what they can do. But other than that, I think they're pretty set. I mean, I think they don't want to impede Jake Stoll's growth. They like what they got from Dallas Goedert, and if they need a veteran, that's why Richard Rodgers is there.
Yeah. Jack Stoll, to me, is a guy that I know they think has got better athleticism than he's been given credit for.
Yep.
But I'm always looking at, if the perfect scenario, what if you and I were in charge, what will we do? We would attack the third corner spot. That, to me, this roster, I mean, as we've learned, once again, we always have to say, don't worry about what happens in mid-March. It's about what the team looks like in September. Mm-hmm. They've done such a good job over a series of weeks. Yes, they struck out on some players. They didn't get Marcus Williams, who was their top free agent target this year. Didn't get him. Okay. That's why their safeties are what they are. They made the trade for A.J. Brown. They tried for Allen Robinson. It's actually probably a good thing they didn't get Allen Robinson, just because A.J. Brown's a younger player and a better football player.
Right.
But the roster as it stands now, through all the free agent moves, trade acquisitions, signings, the draft, they've had a phenomenal offseason. We have to give it up to Roseman and his staff. They've done a great job. Certainly. Were there any signings or moves you said, man, I don't like that one? Anything that you heard from people you talked to that they didn't like it, or you saw, you scratch your head?
That's a great question. there any signings that I didn't really like? Well, I would love to hear an explanation of why they preferred to bring Anthony Harris back over Rodney McLeod,
Yes.
given that they were the same ages. I know that Anthony played for Gannon a little more. I would say Rodney has been a much better safety throughout his career than Anthony Harris, and means a lot to this franchise. Both were going to sign 1-year deals. And so I feel like there's a little more versatility with Rodney, but maybe they felt from the tape differently. I would just have liked an explanation of what went into the decision for one over the other. Because me personally, I thought when Rodney missed the first few games last year, their defense was obviously suffering. I thought when he came back, he did some things that helped them out. That was at the time where they started to trying to get things better. You know, they slowly worked him back in. I think he's still a pretty capable safety. So I would have liked to have known exactly what they saw in Harris that they felt was more or a better signing than Rodney McLeod. That's really the only one that I kind of looked at, thought, I'm not sure I get this one,
Rodney's a year older. You love the high character. He's a really good Eagle. Boy, that signing in 2016 was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Now we know he's been through a lot of injuries. He too only signed a 1-year deal for actually less money than Anthony Harris got. The guarantee is smaller. The number 1.7 million is a little less than Anthony Harris signed for. Not that money really, it doesn't really matter because they're so close in what they both are getting paid.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of, like you said, here's a guy, he's had, the difference is the injury history. Rodney's injury history is pretty significant. That's really the only difference, I would say.
Right. Other than that, I think everything else made sense. What they did with Kaiser White made sense. Drafting Dean in the 3rd round, adding Zach Pascal. I mean, they didn't have to add. I don't think he's going to, that's one of those take it or leave it things,
Yeah.
I guess the only other, and listen, I don't want to be a hypocrite because I am certainly best player available in the draft and you take the highest rated player on your board, but I would go back to the discussion we have of how you evaluate players. And is there a positional bias that for the 2nd straight year you took an interior offensive lineman in the 2nd round when you've had, a decade or more of neglect of cornerback and safety, high in the draft, more so safety, but even corner though, knowing that they needed it, not just, but now for the future, I think, you can look back on that and whatever. If Cam Jurgens turns out to be a very good player, it's a good decision, but it is yet another year that you neglected another position to address the position that you're pretty deep at with both young and veteran talent already. So that's it. That would be nitpicky, I would say,
Yeah, safety is one where they just have not really addressed it quite much. It's funny, the last show we did, when they did in 2011, I mean, I just remember, I don't know if you recall this, but when they drafted Jaquan Jarrett, I have to tell you, the scouting community who wound up getting it wrong, they love this guy, tone setter, knock your block off, best tackling safety in the draft, an intimidator. Not the biggest guy in the world, but his physical style of play, like he set the tone.
Yep.
Terrible. He couldn't cover you. See, where they screwed up in that draft was not understanding you cannot draft strictly box player. He strictly was an old school box safety.
Yep.
You can't draft those guys.
And not only that, they needed safety so badly. That was clearly a kind of like a draft on absolute dire need.
Yes.
Than maybe the best player in that round. So, but no, I'm an advocate of best player available. And if Cam Jurgens turns out to be a very good, he doesn't even have to be a Pro Bowl. He just winds up being a multi-year starter, then it's a good decision. But it always forces you to kind of get into a plan B situation with your corners and safeties, which they've done. All right. Continue, please, to check out InsideTheBirds.com. Andrew DiCecco doing an awesome job right now of doing an off-season recap series. So he's been pumping out about 2 or 3 stories a week, kind of giving you how he sees the roster, like certain battles that he likes, the best addition of the offseason, the biggest area of concern, the biggest area of strength. He's doing a phenomenal job. So make sure you're checking out Andrew DeCecco's stories on InsideTheBirds.com. And please continue to subscribe to the newsletter. If you haven't done it yet, you really got to get on board. It's a great one-stop shop for all Inside the Birds programming and content brought to you right to your inbox. And for those
we need questions. I'm just gonna say we need questions for the few. I think I've got 2 or 3 left in the hopper, as they say, that we can address, but we certainly need your questions. The best way to do is either put it, people tag us, it's fine, on our message board or Facebook board, our Facebook group. We're over 2,000 people there. We like that. It's a private group, folks. So it's not like if we open up to the public, we probably have like 20,000 in it, but it's private. And that way we keep it clean. We do filter it. We've had private messages last 6 months about getting spammers in there. We cleaned it up. There are none in there. If we see it, they're removed. There's been some, as we see on our, everybody knows if you're on our YouTube, our YouTube channel, some of it, and they're all, we're not the only ones. Everybody, if you have a channel on YouTube, you're getting this really weird spam. I'm not sure what it is. There's some really strange stuff. We're on it. We're cleaning it up. But we do it. The best way to do it, on your point, is by our Facebook group or through the form right on our website.
Well, we have a new way to do it. I'm glad it's a great segue.
Go ahead.
So because we've now started answering questions on our newsletter to be a little bit more exclusive to our subscribers there, we've added a button on the newsletter that you can click that will take you to a page where you can post your question. It just takes you straight to the Ask ITB function. So again, another reason you want your questions answered, the fastest, best way to do it, because we're doing it on the newsletter, is to sign up for the newsletter. And then each week when it comes to you, hit the Ask ITB button. It'll take you to the page. You write the question, bam, boom, comes right back to us. So
beautiful. Good
job by you on mentioning all the ways, and then me being able to kind of slide it in there that we've got a new way to answer questions. And we are still working. I think we'll have an adjustment by this time next week so that people who have already signed up for the newsletter don't have to see the sign up on the InsideTheBirds.com website. So we're making some adjustments there. Thank everybody for being patient. All right, we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of this pod. First, we're going to pause real quick to hear a very important word from Let's Get Checked. Are you struggling at the gym? Are your T levels dropping? Then get checked with Let's Get Checked. Let's Get Checked offers a wide variety of testing options such as vitamin tests, liver tests, cholesterol, and CRP tests. They also have tests for iron, kidney, diabetes, heart, Lyme disease, sexual health, and of course colon cancer screening, and more. Just head to their website, trylgc.com/InsideTheBirds, to check out their full range of testing. The link is in the description. Let's Get Checked manufactures all sample collection kits at their accredited facility using the world's best accredited labs and a team of physicians that reviews your orders and results, along with nurses available 24/7 to help with treatment options. Let's Get Checked is your one-stop shop for all your testing needs. Hit the link in this video description to find out more. All right, let's start, Adam, this Eagles defensive roster review and intel, where everything begins with the Eagles defense, and that is up front on the defensive line, where defensive tackle kind of has a new look, a new feel. I guess maybe we should just call it interior defensive line, IDL, because you never know these days with the jargon, whether it's a guy's a 3 technique or a 5 technique, or D end could be an interior lineman if you're covered up by a strong side linebacker. So let's go through the names of the guys who are interior defensive linemen and how this kind of group looks.
Yeah, and Cox had some snaps at the end last season. So
he did.
Just as you set it up, their interior guys we know Cox is back on a 1-year deal with the post June 1 designation. One of the most unique situations I can remember. It's, by the way, the $14 million is fully guaranteed. He's a lock to be on the roster by contract. He has to be on the roster. So what I find interesting is Cox had said late last season he and Gannon patched things up, and whatever issues he had with their scheme, he seemed to patch things up. And our understanding is he really wanted to be an Eagle. Like he wants to, it sounds like he wants to finish his career with an Eagle. I don't know how much longer he's going to play.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's the requisite dummy years on the back of this thing. You knew that had to happen. All the dummy year, the contracts that got extended, all of them have dummy years, either 2, 3, either 2, 3 or 4 years on their, even the 1-year deals. A lot of them got dummy years attached because they want to spread the signing bonuses out, the bonus money out, you know, which is what they do.
Yep.
But Cox is back. What I do wonder, and Hargrave is on the final year of his 3-year deal, with Jordan Davis and Milton Williams in there, do they need to play Cox as much as they have in the past?
That's a great question. I mean, I assume at 1 year, $14 million, he's still a starter, right? Even with Jordan Davis on the field, he's at the end. But you're saying no question about that, Adam, and that's true. But if you're starting him, but you really want to use him mostly as a pass rusher, then you can make an argument to not start him and then bring him on the field once you get to second and third down. Like if you're mostly in first down in a run first defense or a play action pass defense, then you may want something like a Jordan Davis, Javon Hargrave, Milton Williams combination, or Marlon Tuipulotu if he has a good, you know what I'm saying? The point I'm saying is if you're playing Fletcher Cox on first down, then it's really hard to also limit his reps because if you still think he's a really good pass rusher and that's always been what he's been best as, then you're going to have to figure out a way to take snaps away from him at some point. So it might be base, right? It might be base downs where you're like, I'll put a bigger Milton Williams in there. He doesn't have to play the run. So it might look like he's not a starter.
Right. So just understand, a starting only means who's in there for the first official play of the game. That's all that really, technically that's what it means. But what I'm talking about, who's going to play more snaps.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me is got to be Cox, who turns 32 in December. I wonder in the end, with Fletcher Cox, does he have one big year left in him? Because, you know, watching the Eagles as we did and asking a Cosell and Avant and Q and also other who are on our pregame shows and obviously on Q&A and other sources around the league, you know, what's the issue with Cox? Is he just not the same player? Is it the scheme? The feedback that we got shows flashes of it, is clearly not the same player. So it sounds like he's got something left in the tank. I just wonder if he could, $14 million, was it? The question I would have is, was it really necessary? Were there other teams involved? Was there any reporting on this?
Question.
Other teams involved? Because I thought 14 million was a massive overpay. Now, it may have to do with him coming back as an agreement to come back. He would agree to be released, come back at this number with his agent, Todd France. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact of the matter is 14 million is a major number for a guy who turns 32 in December. Is clearly not the same player. To me, he's a 8, 9, 10 million a year player. But, you know, to justify the contract, the guy's got to play. He can't be a part-time player.
Yeah, no, I know Fletcher Cox said in his press conference that after they released him, he did have a couple conversations with some teams. And, you know, the way you see championship level teams overspend, for example, the way the Bills went and got Von Miller and they gave him a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, he's a Hall of Fame, but you've seen that. You'll see the Rams wanted to upgrade their wide receiver core. They gave Allen Robinson a lot of money coming off not a great year. So I guess I could believe that a team like maybe the Chiefs or I'm just spitballing here, like maybe even the Rams themselves or some other team that thinks it's close could have made Fletcher Cox a pretty competitive 1 year type of offer that forced the Eagles' hand. But it all happened so quickly with the Eagles that I just kind of wonder if they just wanted to make sure that because he's a special player to the franchise that they got him back. And I think it's very, very fair to ask, you know, was there someone you were competing against when you gave him that contract?
And what I would add is this just wasn't, okay, well, Cox wanted to come back because he's getting 14 million. What we had heard from a very strong source was he really wanted to come back. Like he homesick, maybe he loves living in South Jersey, wherever he lives. He really wanted to come back. And now I have no idea if he knew their offseason plan. I mean, no one knew about AJ Brown because it just came up. because the Eagles and other teams were told he wasn't available. Then closer to the draft, he was available. But we wonder if he knew what they were trying to build, or who knows. But I give him credit for wanting to come back. I just hope that he comes close to playing at a high level, because 14 mil for a guy who's aging is a big number, man. That's not cheap.
Yeah, it's definitely, especially a guy that you may think you want to start taking reps away from. Like you said, I thought 8 to 10 would have been more in line, but he's got 14, and we'll see. Well, you hope that he sort of comes back motivated by everything that he went through last year, and then, being caught there, but he did get re-signed. So we'll see. Obviously Javon Hargrave, Adam, he enters the last year of a 3-year deal that he signed. This has been one of the best free agent signings. We've been saying that a lot over the last few years, whether it was Malcolm Jenkins or Rodney McLeod or Brandon Brooks, and now Javon Hargrave. A big credit to go not only to Howie Roseman, but those who have been involved in pro scouting for the Philadelphia Eagles over the last 5 or 6 years. And there have been some different names there, but the Eagles have done a really nice job on hitting on some of these 3-year deal guys second contract guys that they've tried to bring in.
So, and in your reporting on this, I think you'd put out well before he signed, he said, keep an eye on Javon Hargrave.
I did. Yep.
What was it that they liked about him that in your what you recall from your information?
Yeah. So what I remember is that they felt that he could be an upfield tackle, because even though he came from the Steelers, the way the Steelers were playing him was as a sort of a situational pass rusher until some injuries happened. Then he had to start for them. But a lot of people think the Steelers, all they do is 2-gap and run stuff and then only get their pressure from the outside linebackers. But that's not the case. They felt Hargrave, and they had saw it, and even in his tape in college at Southern. Why is it escaping me now?
Carolina State.
Where did South Carolina State? Yeah, Darius Leonard, same school. South Carolina State. They had saw it there as well. And remember, they were really looking for somebody to be able to put next to Fletcher Cox, who was a little bit younger. They had gone through the Haloti Nadas and the Malik. Malik. Wait, what's his last name?
Malik Jackson.
Malik Jackson. Yeah. They had lost Bo Allen after winning the Super Bowl. So they were really trying to get somebody, knowing that Fletcher was going up in age. So one of the other guys they really liked also, who is a similar tackle, was New Orleans' David Onyemata.
Oh yeah.
And he re-signed with the Saints pretty quickly in free agency. So they were able to get Hargrave. Coincidentally, it happened right after they had struck out on Byron Jones. So you kind of wonder in looking back on it, would they have been able to sign both guys? I mean, I think they could have. They may have had to do some more roster maneuvering, or did they go after Javon Hargrave once they realized they weren't going to get Byron Jones, which I would have to say, right. I think plan B would have been better than plan A. I'd rather have Javon Hargrave and Darius Slay than Byron Jones and then whatever they were going to.
I agree.
At defensive tackle there.
Byron Jones, he's had some injuries, so that would be the excuse, but he has not played up anywhere close to the level of the contract. He signed a massive contract, and the Eagles were in it to the end, so were the Raiders. And then, as you said, they didn't get him, so they spent their money elsewhere. And Hargrave, it was a pectoral injury his rookie season?
And a hamstring injury. Yeah, pec and hamstring.
A hamstring. So he's come out, and he's a player. Now was it last year, the first quarter or so of the season, he was amazing.
He was. I thought he was pretty steady all year. I know he went through some ups and downs, and he certainly started to get double teamed more as the season went on. But he was a pretty consistent performer for the Eagles from start to finish. In fact, honestly, he's been on the team for 2 years now. He had the slow start because of the injuries. I thought over the second half of the 2020 season, he really started to come on as far as creating pressures, pushing the pocket, moving quarterbacks off their spots. Yeah. So last year to me was like kind of a continuation and an emergence after really showing what he could do down the stretch 2 years ago. So he's been a very productive player. We'll see what happens. This is year 3, the final year of his contract. I've always thought that they would be smart to extend him before the start of the season, or maybe sometime
They
during the
could.
season. And you don't want to let him get too much closer to free
Well,
agency and have years like this.
he is a massive cap number this year. He did a restructure.
Yep.
March of 20. Let me see here. Let's see what my notes have. He did a restructuring March of last year, and it ballooned his cap number to, let me see if
While you're looking at that, you made a really interesting point out Byron Jones that we should do a podcast sometime during the summer off season, which is kind of close here, where we examine some of the things about the NFL, like the perceptions versus the realities. First, so Byron Jones signed that huge deal in Miami. And so now it's easy to say he didn't live up to that contract, but he was never in his career the best or second best or third best cornerback in the NFL. You could make an argument that he's probably played at the same level with Miami, and he's been versatile. He can play inside, outside, some safety, but that it's not his fault that Miami decided to blow him out of the water with a deal that made him the top paid cornerback at the time. He was never the top cornerback in the NFL. He was a one-time Pro Bowler. So it's funny because he'll be looked at as a disappointment, but I would probably, without having watched a lot of Miami, I don't think he's probably played any better, any worse than he did in Dallas. He was just never an elite corner. He was always just a good, steady, versatile corner that for whatever reason, Miami decided to, overpay. And then the same thing with Christian Kirk, right? Is he not going to live up to this contract? How does he live up to that contract? He's never been that good.
Oh, Kirk, he doesn't see. It's funny you say that because Byron Jones, there was always a question with the former Dallas staff how good he was.
Mm-hmm.
And on your point, they loved his versatility. He was the guy they put on tight ends.
Yes.
Like for a while, he was that guy because he's super athletic. He can move. He's smart enough to pick the defense up. If you keep moving around, he doesn't get mentally flustered. He can handle it. High character kid, takes to coaching.
Right.
But he's never been that talented.
Right. Not a great hip flipper, not like a natural Corvette mover at the cornerback position where you feel comfortable with him matched up against some of the better, like him versus Deshaun Jackson. I mean, anybody.
Oh no, I wouldn't do that. But he was a tight end guy. Like he talked. Right. I knew the staff pretty well then, the Dallas staff, and they said after a while he became by far. You see how Jaron Kearse has made his money now covering tight end. He's taller. He's much taller. But Jones at 6 feet, but he can run. And the great thing is he can mirror the movement of the tight end. Now, the problem is the tight ends sometimes are much taller. Mm-hmm. Now, if you want to say he doesn't live up to that unbelievable combine workout, I wouldn't disagree with you. That there's no way you're gonna. That's where the overrated part is because his combine workout was historic.
Yes.
And that got him to be probably largely a little bit overrated.
Right. But we know that straight line speed and the ability to jump as high as he brought, like I think he set a world record at the combine for the vertical or the broad, one of those jumps.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily mean you can go out there and cover Cooper Kupp really well on the outside. Right. Or because you have to have a certain ability to do things with your body, your hips, your instincts and things that he played at Connecticut. It's not like he's out there in the SEC or anything like that. So
yeah.
So no, it's a great discussion though, just about how we kind of what we envision from football players based on their contract, based on their testing and perception versus reality.
Just to end that part of it, sometimes they say in the NFL, the best moves you make are the ones you don't make. Mm-hmm. That's one where I know they were heartbroken.
Yep.
Talking to someone in their front office, then they were not happy they didn't get him because they wanted him to be that movable chess piece type of guy, which it's hard to find those kind of players, and that's why he got overpaid. I remember talking to the Raiders then at the time, and they made him a monster offer. Remember, they were in Vegas then. They'd moved to Vegas. No state income tax, and ironically, Florida doesn't have it either. Mm-hmm. But he decided he did not. It wasn't that he had anything against the Eagles. He wanted to get out of the East Coast because he's from Connecticut. I actually met him at ESPN. His draft year, really nice guy, and boy, did $16.5 million, which now that the new contracts blow that out of the water, but at the time people were like, "What?
Yeah,
Byron Jones? Okay,
exactly." All right, so let's talk. So we'll see what happens with Hargrave. I
Yeah.
would think, my spidey senses they want to get this guy an extension and keep him on the team, but they did draft Jordan Davis. They are changing a little bit of how they are defensively, so maybe they're going to kind of wait a little bit, month or two, see what they get out of Jordan Davis, see how Fletch is playing, and then of course see what they're getting from two backups who are going to be interesting. One being Milton Williams, the other being Marlon Tuipulotu. We'll get to them in a second, but Jordan Davis, Adam, rookie contract. What's the first round rookie defensive lineman? A couple million, right? You get the big signing bonus.
Yeah, the first year cap, man, it's amazing how these things have changed from I'll give it to you. I think I have it. Yeah. It's so ridiculous. This is how everything's changed. Sam Bradford, 50 million fully guaranteed in his rookie deal.
Oh God, yeah. Well, didn't Cam Newton make he was the last one, right?
He was a bonus baby. Yeah, 2011. Exactly right. Yeah, he that was it. And no. 2010 was the last one. The new CBA was 2011.
Oh, okay.
I don't think if I recall correctly, the running joke was Bradford got the last one, and he was the reason why that the league had enough of it.
Change that, yeah.
Yeah. There's our friend Andrew Brandt. What was his line? He was a winner, and he and Tom Condon were winners in the Contract Hall of Fame.
Yes.
Him and Chase Daniel, no S at the end. Jordan Davis, $705,000 base salary for year one.
Wow. But he did, as people know, he signed a signing bonus worth, several $1 million.
Right, $9.5 million. Right. So his cap, because it's spread over 4 years, his cap number is only just over 3 million. It's just about 3.1 million.
Right.
But still, that is the difference between the old rookie contracts and the new ones. He was a mid-first round pick, but it had to happen. They had to have a rookie cap because it was just ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And even some of the agents we were talking to then would say, look, it has to happen because it's great if you have a quarterback. You love this. You don't want a rookie cap. But there were some agents who were saying, look, they get it. They would laugh because a lot of these agents who didn't have top first round picks were the ones who were saying that. Mm-hmm. Not that anyone top of the top 15 picking there like, no, I don't want a rookie cap. I want my guy to get the money.
Right. So Jordan Davis, Adam, it's going to be interesting to see how quickly they try to get him on the field. I mean, he's a first round pick.
Yep.
The first thing he has to do is report to training camp at the right weight that they tell him to be at. And if he is, and he's on the field, you got to think that they're going to try to get him on the field really quickly and establish him as at least their base defensive tackle or nose, whatever you want to call it, whatever alignment in. And that will change a little bit of how their line looks when he's on it.
Remember, Hargrave has played in an old school 2-gap 34 with the Steelers.
Yep.
You could line them up in a variety of ways. They've done 43 with them. They've done the 5-2. So look, they've got a good enough depth now at D tackle. Milton Williams has shown the ability to play on the outside. Now they think he's more of an interior player.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got Tuipulotu, which he had the significant hamstring injury last summer. So he just was not right physically. Once he started playing late in the season, but he just wasn't ready. This is a big season for him. They really like him.
Yeah.
And as I think you noted before the last year's draft, they were looking for a nose.
Yeah.
And that's what he's going to do. And Greg said that he's underrated as a pass rusher. So this group is really talented. They are super deep at D tackle.
Right. So whenever we always try to talk about this, whenever you talk about personnel and scheme and everything and certain players, you can't just think about who the starter is. You always have to have a backup who can do what your starter is able to do, right? Jannard Avery last year was the first on the line Sam linebacker that we've seen the Eagles use in forever.
Talk about an overhang. Yeah.
Right. An overhang player. I hadn't seen that in quite a while.
He was literally, we saw this in camp, but I'm like, I didn't know what to make of it. And then this is why Ryan Kerrigan just was not used the right way.
Right.
People could argue that some people think he didn't have a lot left. I don't know about that. But on your point, yeah, he literally, and that's the question, right? Are they going to use the linebackers the same way?
Right. Because if you're going to practice a certain scheme and one of your major cogs gets hurt, you can't just change up the scheme. Oh, now we're going to be a 4-3 instead of a 3-4.
Oh, right. Well, you would
So my
hope
point
not.
was with Jordan Davis, if they like what he sees and that's what they're doing, but he has to come off the field or he gets hurt, then they need that guy who has the ability to play head up on the center, but then also move around a little bit, the one, maybe even be also a 3. And that's where Marlon Pelotu comes in a little bit because he has that. Now he's not nearly as mammoth as Jordan Davis, but he was a strength player at USC, can shed, anchor, not anchor, but turn his feet well and had that positional versatility. So, I mean, I would imagine that the Eagles want to see him be way better than he was last summer.
Oh, yeah.
Healthier, and then be able to compete to be Jordan Davis's type of backup player in that regard.
Sure. And remember, after the season, can never say never, but Cox right now, after 22, you have to wonder whether he would come, if they would want him back. It all depends how he plays.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say, for argument's sake, Hargrave gets his extension, and I'm sure they're going to want to lower his $17.82 million cap number. That's a massive number. Why would you want him playing on that cap number? And his base is $12.75 million. He is the perfect candidate to get his contract extended.
Yes.
See what happens.
Absolutely.
For the future, looks like I'm going to put Hargrave on the team for the future. Hargrave, Jordan Davis, Milton Williams, and Noah Ellis, who you and I saw at OTAs. He's got some ankles.
He's a mountain.
He's got some calves.
I think his ankles and calves are basically the same thing. It's just like a tree trunk. Just
I know. Well, you said something to me. You said, "Hey, you know who that is?" I'm like, I don't know if I could see the number. He goes, "I think that's Noah Ellis," and I look back. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that's Noah Ellis." Wow,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a mountain of a human being.
Yeah.
Who is that?
He's not tall, but he's legs are huge, tree trunks,
yes.
And his calves. I look, it's highly unlikely he'd make it, but I wonder if he just is incredible. And the word gets out from the reporters who are there at camp every day. You do wonder if he could actually really seriously push for a roster spot.
Yeah, and he would be another ideal number 2 because of how he's built massively. If he could make the team, he would be a backup to what they are going to use Jordan Davis for. Now, I don't think Ellis has the same kind of versatility as Tui Pelotu, where I think Noah Ellis can only play head up and occupy 2 gaps, and you're not going to get any pass rush out of him. I don't think he's just a monster. But he is a guy that if he makes the team could do what Jordan Davis does in certain alignments, and that's why he's here. I mean, the Eagles would never have 2 guys 350 plus pounds on their ever, unless they were offensive linemen. They would never have 200. They'd never have 2 350 plus pound defensive linemen ever in the past.
You can't keep 5 tackles.
Correct.
Because the Eagles because obviously nickel you can move depending on what front they're moving. You could always move Graham inside, which they've done before. Sweat can play inside. Sweat also may stand. We'll get the DNs in a second.
Yep.
But they just and in passing, Wren, who was a former Bengals draft pick, and Marvin Wilson is back, but you can't keep everybody. And the reality is they'll probably only keep 4, but I do want, the 5th would be Tui Pelotu as we speak now on Thursday.
Right.
He's the guy who would be pushing for that 5th spot. They had a feeling on him. We'll see if you throw away his rookie season because he didn't really contribute. But it's going to be hard to keep 5. We'll see how it breaks down.
Well, I think between the versatility that you get with Hargrave, with Jordan Davis, who can play multiple spots, same thing with Milton Williams, who plays end and tackle, that, you've got an interesting, if Tui Pelotu just does not show up, if he's not what they were hoping, but Noah Ellis is, even though Noah Ellis is less versatile, they may say, that's all right, we want like a good big backup for Jordan Davis for that nose. And then we've got enough versatility between Cox, Hargrave, Davis, and Williams that, we'll be fine with what we want to do from a multiple front standpoint. But that's a conversation that we'll have, sometime during training camp. Let's move on to, as you just mentioned, defensive end. Got a lot of good pass rushers here, but as you and I have talked about, the contract situation is going to be interesting for some. The usage is going to be for some. I don't think we can question either for Josh Sweat, though. He's going to be on the field. He's their best pressure producer from the outside, at least with Brandon Graham out last year. And this is the first year of the extension, right, that he signed last year.
Yep. His structure is really 2 years through 23. 24. This is where it gets interesting for Josh Sweat, because it's good that these agents also got short-term deals. So if the guy stays healthy, he could sign another one.
Yep.
But it's really, when you look at it, after 23, they could get out of it. In fact, because his cap number jumps from just over 6 million in 23 to 18.727 million in 24. So he's really going to have to play well in 20 through 23 to come back in 24. He's been an incredible story of development based on his major injury history growing up, the bad knee in high school. There was wonder if we'd ever play football again, and what a credit to him to play through it. And after, they put him on IR, I think year one, he's a good football player. He's not elite, obviously. Don't know if he'll be a Pro Bowler, but he's a good football. He's to me right below the Pro Bowl level. He's just a solid football player.
It's funny. I said that a couple pods ago, and somebody, we got a few people who are like, well, guess what? He's a Pro Bowler. I think he was a Pro Bowl alternate.
Right. And
last year, and then he wound up appering because
it doesn't count, unfortunately.
I agree with you. It doesn't count.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't count to get bonuses. You have to actually be voted in, named originally. If you're a replacement, it doesn't count. But okay, great. But he's a good player. This is a really good story development.
The question I have on Josh Sweat that we will find out is what you saw last year was a very consistent player. Not a 12 to 15 sack guy, but even when he's not getting sacks, he pushes the pocket. There will be some games where naturally, I remember this during the Trent Cole era too, where you're like, there'll be a stretch of games or 2 games in a row where he just doesn't have a sack or doesn't do what you thought, So my question on Josh Sweat is, what we saw last year, was that his ceiling? And if it's his ceiling, that's fine. It's a 3-year deal. If he does this for the next 3 years, that's pretty good. Or is there still a little bit more room for him to grow as a pass rusher? Now, he showed last year, Adam, that he can play a lot of snaps, and he didn't seem to have any knee issues. He had that crazy stomach thing that caused him not to be able to be available for the playoff game. Apparently he's fine, but that was pretty life-threatening, as he said. But I just wonder when I watch him and we rewatch the tape and we talk to Cosell, I mean, he does some things really well, but does he have enough room to add? Can he become more refined pass rusher?
Great question.
Can he start to study more techniques and really elevate himself to that 10 to 12 to 13 sack range?
I don't think he really has it in him. Not that, well, you know what? We'll ask Greg. Well, he's good with that because he studies more tape than anyone who works in the National Football League.
Right.
But based on what we've known up to this point, it seems like he's going to be not just the sack numbers. He's super long. He's what you want in defensive end, but he's not there. There's a type, the Brandon Graham type, who was one of the best DNs in Eagles history. If he could be Brandon Graham, just a lot. Now I understand Josh has had to overcome a lot physically, but he's been able to handle it. But just steadily get better. Just be that solid 7-8 sack guy.
Yep.
Stand him up as we saw.
Yep.
What's that?
And also set the edge. I mean, Brandon's a very good run defender.
His rookie season, I remember someone telling me to watch this. He's a really good run defender, and that's where he actually he was a base down player. I was kind of surprised.
Right.
Didn't know anything about that, and he was doing it before they put him on IR. But if he could be just that level, play the run, be the good force player, get to decent sack numbers, where when we all watch him play, you go, that is a good football player, because that's who he is right now. But I just don't know if he's ever going to be very good to elite. I don't see that. We haven't seen that yet out of him.
Right. Now, you asked me earlier in the pod, any moves that I didn't really think made sense, because there were so many good ones. And I forgot to mention the next one where, again, I remember I could rationalize it at the time for what they had, for the fact that we were that deep into free agency and you could bring him back at a number that wasn't very big, but still Derek Barnett, 2 years, $14 million. Now you look at it even more so in retrospect with the changing dynamics of their defensive line. And you just wonder, like, where's the fit at this point? What's the role? And whatever role he does carve out, is it really worth the 2-year, 14 million, which I know isn't a complete 2-year, $14 million
Yeah,
contract, but
right.
nonetheless, he's going to get paid, and it's going to be fairly decently for a guy whose role right now is, I don't know what it is. It's got to be a backup role.
Well, when they play 34, he could stand up because he stood up before.
But you're not going to stand him up over Sweat or Reddick. So
Yeah, because they both would. Yeah, well, yeah, and that you're right, because they would be. I'm just saying, well, what he can do. He could play with his hand down on a 43.
Yep.
34, he could stand up. But it's how do you justify it? Now, see, here's part of their thinking. Graham, no, we did report this. We put this on a recent show that Graham really looked good, like in there, whatever they allowed him to do in OTAs, whatever he did, he looked really good. He's, I always laugh when people say ahead of schedule. He's far ahead of schedule. He's like, okay, this is what you would hope for if a guy was coming off a serious injury, like a torn Achilles, being in your 30s. Like, he looked great. And I know people can't wait to see what he looks like in training camp. That's part of their thinking about bringing Barnett back. Graham in his 30s. Josh Sweat is a good, he's their one guy you could count on. Teron Jackson, is a backup D end.
Yeah.
You could stand up if you want him to. They don't have a lot of depth. I mean, they just don't. If Graham had not gotten hurt, you feel better about it, but they could afford to bring one more guy in.
So I guess the only thing that I sort of dislike about the contract, along with what I've mentioned, is that, I mean, he's definitely on the 53 because of it. And you kind of wonder, as they have a lot of
100%.
guys competing for spots, what happens if you see some kind of really good jump from a guy like either Teron Jackson or maybe the rookie that they drafted in the 6th round, Kyron Johnson, right? Like maybe Patrick Johnson, maybe 2 of those 3 that I mentioned. And then you kind of want to keep them, but then you also have to keep Derek Barnett. I think it forces their hand a little bit too much to have to keep him when they may get a really good jump from somebody else. And then what do you do with that somebody else? You got
right. And the first thing is, I would not have given that contract. I have to wonder, were there other teams that evolved trying to sign Barnett?
I would have said good luck to you then. I probably
exactly. I don't what the head coach says so many things we roll our eyes at. Oh, that Quez Watkins could be the best number 2 receiver I've worked with. Well, obviously he likes Quez Watkins. I get that.
Right.
Well, we know what they wound up doing.
Yeah.
He said he's made other proclamations which turned out to be, well, they obviously the front office didn't think so because they did something else, whatever the case may be. So but here he said Barnett's really smart. Okay. Now I know people bring up the dumb penalties. It's true, but there's obviously something we don't know about.
Yeah. Yeah. That must be it. I tell you, it's going to be a bad situation for Barnett if he commits a single roughing the passer or late hit penalty. Oh, this city is going to absolutely crush and annihilate him. Yeah, it's not going to be good. All right, so that's a lot of names we gave you between D tackle and DN. That's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guys at that position there. So there's going to be some pretty good battling. And then remember, a couple of guys we haven't yet talked about, like a Reddick, or because they're linebackers, they're also pass rushers. So they kind of figure in that overall number. Edge rushers, right. We'll get into that in a minute. So it's sort of hard to see a pathway, Adam, for Teron Jackson onto this, unless, again, he's just has some unbelievable camp. But it's really hard for me to see it.
Well, but again, if they're playing a 43, who's your 4th end?
Sweat, Graham, Barnett,
Jackson.
Well, I mean, Milton Williams has the end.
You could, yeah, true.
And Milton's not going to be playing a lot if you've got Jordan Davis and Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave manning the middle for most of your snaps. So
that would be okay. So that would be your way off of Jackson because of Williams. Okay, I can see that.
And then remember, there's going to be snaps where your edges are outside linebackers. So I mean, those are defensive ends in 4-3 and pass rushing
Sure.
situations. So.
And let's not forget Matt Leo.
Oh, yes.
I just
International exemption extraordinaire.
Yeah. Third year with you.
All right, we will move away from the defensive line, sort of get into the linebackers and edges. First, we've told you about our new partner. We've been wanting to get them on for so long now. They're Freestone Farms CBD. It's our favorite CBD brand because they farm it themselves with all organic inputs, and they offer you some education on what they grow and how they grow it to make the best quality products on the market. We've tried a lot of different brands, but honestly, Freestone Farms' CBD has just been amazing. We like using it after workouts to help with that, that post-workout feel. You're sore, you want to loosen up. And we also like it before bed, as we've all been sleeping better at night because of it. So what's been even more exciting is our friends at Freestone Farms just unveiled an all new strain menu with some supremely good CBD at prices you will love. You got to check them out at FreestoneFarmsCBD.com. You'll find it all there. Trust us, the menu has stuff that you've got to look at. Strains like their insane tropical tasting Bayox. It clocks in at a chart topping 24.1%. And the Super CBD, which is half Hindu Kush at 21%. The genetics these guys use, they just don't get better. They also grow all of their premium hemp flower in the Garden State with all organic inputs and IPM. Absolutely nothing synthetic from farm to jar. After they harvest, they carefully preserve all the plant compounds with a perfect 3-month cure. Just one look or smell is enough to know it is CBD done right, and that it's a product that's great for anyone looking to take a natural approach to anything that you put in your body. On top of that, if you use the promo code ITB, you get 20% off at checkout. That's promo code ITB at checkout on FreestoneFarmsCBD.com.
Two things.
All right. Yeah.
They're local, which I like.
Love being local.
The key to I've been a CBD enthusiast for a couple of years. It does really help you sleep better. That's what I would say I got out of Freestone Farms. And by the way, they're also on IG. You can follow them there. Freestone Farms.
Yep.
So it really does, because a lot of us, I don't know about you, but I have trouble sleeping sometimes. I got too much on my mind. I need to just concentrate on trying to fall asleep, and it really is helpful.
Yeah, I actually sleep well. It's the post-workout for me that needs that relaxing, that muscle relaxing and kind of getting me back to a comfortable feeling, because I'm getting older, as you know, Adam. And I still like I've already I pulled my hamstring coaching softball because I was sprinting in the outfield. I messed my shoulder up. I do things as if I'm 25 and not 45, about to turn 46 in August. So yeah, I definitely need that extra assistance now that I'm getting up.
Can I tell you something really quick? I don't know if I've mentioned this before. So John Hansen was many years ago, our friend John Hansen from fantasypoints.com. Some kid challenged him on a street wherever he lived the last 20 years, and he got annoyed with the kid. He took it personally, so he raised him and he tore his calf.
See, you just got pride goes before the fall, my friend, man.
Yeah, he did. And he said, and John's got some tree trunks, and I remember him telling me, he goes, it was killing him for months. Because with a kid, when you tear your calf muscle, it's I don't know if it was a complete tear, grade 3, but it was bad, and he never got anything done. I don't even think he rehabbed it. He just, I wonder if he still deals with it. I don't even know what he bike rides now.
Right.
But man, don't let those young punks challenge you, man.
Well, I am not 100% recovered from that hamstring pull. I'm 95%.
Really? Still?
Yeah. There are times I played golf, with you the other day.
Yeah.
There's some other things I'll do, physical activity, where I will start to feel a little bit of a tightness in that area, like a little knot, and I've got to kind of then dial it back. So, these injuries take a long time to fully heal.
Did when we played golf, we also want to give Children's Hospital some
shout
love
out
here.
to Chop. Yeah,
great job
event.
they did. Our friend Nick Ryan.
Right. Also, we want to thank them for making us the keynote speakers there.
Yeah, it was
and
cool.
Doing a little Eagles
Yep.
Q&A with their people.
For sure. Really cool. We enjoyed that. So were you struggling for, I know we have, in fact, we've got some emails about the golfing stuff. A couple of people actually invited us out. We should probably do it. But sure. Jeff and I are duffers, but you have this incredible draw on your shot. You're a right-handed golfer. And I know I've joked with you because I know you're not trying to do it, but when you whack it, I'm like, this guy is good. Like you might whack it 220, like maybe 250. But maybe. Are you feeling it in your hamstring? Is that why you have a draw?
What? No, not at all. I've always had that. Okay. I would actually, it's weird. You call it a draw. It is because I used to have a heavy slice. Then I learned actually how to, I took lessons, and I still will, even when I hit it well, have a natural little arc away. And on the third or fourth hole that we played, we had a dog leg to the left, right from the tee box, and trees on the left. What's that?
Seaview Club.
Seaview,
for those
Seaview Country Club in Galloway, New Jersey.
Yeah.
So I very rarely do something on the golf course that I intended to do, unless it's like a really wide open fairway and I'm
raise your hand.
I tee, all right. So when you were there, what I tried to do is I said, I think I can cut this dog leg and put the ball somewhere in the fairway after it already twists to the left, if I can just hit it over the tree. So I literally aimed at the trees, and all I feel like I need to do is hit it well to get the height, to get the ball over the trees. And sure enough, I hit the ball high and far over, and it curved to the point where it landed very close to the middle of the fairway on the dog leg left, on the left part. So we had a really nice approach to the green. And that is maybe the first time in my life where I tried to do something like strategic on the golf course and it worked. So you must have been my lucky charm. But no, the hamstring it doesn't impact that at all.
Okay. All right. I wasn't sure, but no, it's funny. Like I started off terribly for the first 4 to 5 holes. You were doing well, I think. And then I took over for you. I started hitting it straight for like 5 or 6 holes. I was like, but the problem is I could not get enough distance. My drives were 175 to 225. And then we were playing with our friend Anthony DeGrossa, who, my goodness gracious,
oh my God,
Upper Lang over there, 300 to 325, just about. And by the way, and you were talking about trying to hit for the golfers out there. He was trying to hit over the trees, and he did it. It was something to behold. I wish we had instant replay. I was just in awe of the thing.
Yeah.
So good job by those guys.
Yeah, I don't often play with people who will outdrive me by 50 yards, but Anthony is one of the few who, I mean, it was really humbling. I hit some really good tee shots there.
Oh yeah.
And he launches his past mine. I'm like, well, great. Now I feel useless in a scramble because you're hitting it farther than me off the tee every single time. And I have no short game, as everybody knows. So,
but we were playing best ball, and what happened was I had one hole where the best in the 2 rounds of golf Jeff and I've played together. I hit a massive drive, like I thought for me 250. I'm thinking really good, and then he hits this other guy. And I'm shaking my head. No, because I remember we were in the cart together, and you go, dude, you're not going to believe this. That's his ball down there. I'm like, what?
It was very humbling.
Well, exactly. I'm like, okay, well, at least, I was just happy that I played a little better than the last time.
Yes, anyway. You did. You were much better, and you got better. I tend to, in bowling and golf, for whatever reason, I get progressively worse, even if I start off good. I don't know why. It's just a thing. I have trouble when I lose it. I have trouble getting it back. But you got progressively better, and it really helped us on the back 9. All right, let's take us through the back 9 of this pod. We'll talk about the linebacker situation. There's no doubt about it. Adam, every time I talk about the linebacker situation, I say, this is a way better linebacker situation than it was the last 2 years.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, but that still doesn't make it one of the best linebacker situations in the league. It's just a really good one for the Eagles because that's a position that they've really struggled at as of late.
Yeah, so the way they'll do it, by the way, Kaiser White, 1 year, $3 million fully guaranteed at signing. All his money fully guaranteed. I just know that I know he's a smaller guy, former safety in college, but he's a good player. Now, Brandon Staley didn't want him. He wanted, not that White didn't play well for him, he wanted bigger linebackers. My Charger source told me that. He wanted to rebuild the defense with bigger players with the Chargers, and that's what he did. But Kaiser White is a good football player, very, very, very productive as a tackler. So that when they play a 34 front, in the end, White and Dean, when they play 34, will probably play more than TJ Edwards will play.
Mm-hmm.
TJ Edwards is strictly, I know he could play a nickel. He's done it before, but you don't want him really doing that if you can help it.
Right.
White and Dean would be those guys. And then Davion Taylor, who was a guy they were pretty excited about last year's offseason. Unfortunately, too many injuries, MCL sprain, and so forth. He'll fight for an inside job, inside linebacker job. But when they play 43, how do you think this is going to look?
I think you're right. I think that, in their base formations, TJ Edwards will be there kind of as a middle with, flanked by Nakobe and Kazir White. Maybe Davion Taylor, if he's, makes the team, if he's healthy. I really don't know what to expect from Kazir White. I know that, first of all, his contract is very similar to the one that they gave last year to Eric Wilson. Eric Wilson didn't even make it through the season.
Well,
he's cut halfway.
Yeah, White's guarantee is a little stronger, but yeah.
You're right, but not so much that it means to me all that. It's only a little bit. It's not like it's $2 million more guarantee. It was just like it's not even a full $1 million more. So I don't. He played well in a scheme that is different than what the Eagles are going to be running. So, I just don't want to jump to conclusions and automatically assume Kazir White's going to be a really big upgrade. I hope he is. The Eagles hope he is. I think he has the capabilities to be. It's cool that he's a local guy, but I've kind of seen this happen year after year after year with their patchwork 1-year linebacker, and it really hasn't worked out the way they've wanted it to work out.
Who was that guy?
What, Corey Nelson?
That's it. You know. I was going to say Denver, and he was a scheme fit. Yeah, it's so funny. These scheme fits.
Yeah, like Will Parks. I know that was a different position, but that was
he
the
got
guy
hurt.
who everybody had huge, expectations for.
He got hurt. He had a bad hamstring injury, and Jim Schwartz was not here having any of it when he came. He's like, I'm moving on.
Yeah. Yeah, another guy who got cut before the year was over. There was Jatavis Brown who retired. So I don't hold that, but
yeah.
But
right, man. This team is littered going back to the early 2000s of these. Now I know all teams do it. The Eagles aren't the only team that does it. These one guy year sort of prove it deals, or some guys are older. They want to see if they've got anything.
Yep.
And so many of them just should not work out.
Yeah. And just like Eric, why can't I remember his name? Eric Wilson, Kazir White was not supposed to be a starter for the Chargers. He got to play because there were a lot of injuries. He got in there and played well enough, to showcase himself. But you could say that about Eric Wilson the same way. He got into the lineup for the Vikings because they had injuries to Eric Kendricks, they had injuries to Anthony Barr. He made a bunch of tackles. The construct of Zimmer's defense enabled that partly. And so the numbers look good, and bam, that's what you get. So I listen, I'm hoping that Kazir White is what you hope him to be, but I also understand that I've kind of seen this before. So I'm reserving some judgment and some skepticism to see that if he fits this scheme and is asked to do what he's asked to do in the Eagles scheme, that it's going to cater to his strengths, because we just haven't seen that all the time.
I'm going to save the people on our YouTube page. I'm just going to say it right now. Moshe, you're too negative.
Oh, darn. Am I being negative? How come it's negative? Like,
I know.
When I give good precedent, or if I give his story, if I like
backing
back
up,
it up, right? But anyway, to your point, I think what's fascinating is, what do they do with Davion Taylor? Does he potentially, let's say he plays well, but they really like what they've got with Dean Edwards and Kazir White mostly.
Training camp preseason.
Yeah. In training camp preseason. Does Taylor push Sean Bradley out the door and they just say Davion's going to be a special teamer?
Bradley, well, what we've heard is Dean will be an outstanding special teams player for them. They've already, that's really the way the teams we spoke with prior to the draft had mentioned that, and everything we've heard since then would suggest that. But Kyron Johnson, who we'll get to in a minute, who's going to be a demon on special teams because he's the most explosive guy, replacing the Rudy Ford who left, who they cannot. It's hard to find guys who are this explosive.
Right.
So look, when they play 34, you have two inside backers. We just outlined who we think those guys will be. Taylor almost certain if he's on the team is going to be a backup. He's not going to be starting. It's just I'd be shocked. I don't see a way that he could start at this point.
No, at this point, no, unless there's an injury, which it's that's very possible with this group. That's always very possible. Move on to edges, outside linebacker, stand-up guys. Hassan Reddick, look, 3 years, $45 million, 30 guaranteed. That was their guy that they wanted. That was their guy they got. He comes home, Camden, New Jersey kid, Temple kid, which makes the story even better. And he's going to be out there. We know that. Question, Adam, is how do they use him, right, when they're in base? Because they don't want him covering too much. You want him rushing the passer.
He's multiple Panthers sources told us he's a run and chase.
Right.
Don't isolate him in coverage because
Right.
it's not what he does. He's just not comfortable at it. He's the old school term, he plays with his hair on fire, and that's a good thing in this case because he is got incredible explosion. But I don't know what the Cardinals were thinking the first couple of years. They had no idea what to do with him.
Mm-hmm.
And then he really came on his final year, and the Panthers wanted him back, but they were nowhere. Their money, we're told, was nowhere near what the Eagles were offering.
Right.
And
right.
the Eagles blew them out of the water, and they're okay. Hey, good. You know, they were like they're a multiple team though. They play multiple fronts.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. He gets to come home. A good story, and the 2-year structure on the 3-year deal. $30 million fully guaranteed signing on a 3-year deal, and they'll see how he does.
We will. And so there's really not much other than say that he's a guy. He's a starter. When they rush the passer, whether it's from a 3-4 or a 4-3. He's going to be on the field as an edge rusher. And look, you hope you get the 12 to 14 sacks that he's another guy that I think you wonder, and you look at what he's done the last 2 years has clearly shown you he should be a pass rusher. Does Hassan Reddick have the ability? Does he have the ability to push his ceiling even further? Can he be a 16 to 18 sack guy? I don't know. I haven't studied his moves enough. I know he's explosive,
but he see if you don't get your hands on him,
it's over.
He's going to get by you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what, from what you understand, the tape shows, because he's relentless. In fact, he got some sacks last year from the coaching tape, we're told, where he either missed, overran the play,
mm-hmm.
or it wasn't in his area, and then he ran back and got the quarterback.
Right. Second effort, second motor.
Right.
Sack. Yeah.
Second reaction, sort of, in a way, for a defensive player. Like he's got this incredible motor that does not stop. And you love having guys like that, or infectious like that. He's a really good dude. Now, here's the thing: like, he'll play strong side in 43. Now, if they're playing against a heavy run team, those are the times where you might not see him on the field as much, because he's not a run guy.
Right.
Too small.
Right. It's funny that the different, like Trent Cole got a lot of second effort sacks. He to me was a second effort sack guy because he just kept coming at you.
Yeah.
He would hand fight you. He would try to edge you. You get your arms on him. His legs are going to keep going. I mean, he got a ton of second effort sacks. I like the way you phrased it. With Reddick, you can get second reaction sacks. If you get your hands on him, you're probably going to stop him. Not unlike Trent Cole. If you get your hands on him, you probably got him under control. But if you don't, and the quarterback gets out of the pocket or runs around, he's going to scramble. He'll find the way to the quarterback with that great speed that he has off the edges. But you know, that's basically if he's on top. If you touch him, though, if you're able to get physical with him, you can win that battle.
Right. So in back of Reddick is Patrick Johnson, who was their backup Sam last year.
Mm-hmm.
We have to ask Greg next time we have him on. What was his pass rush? He was at Tulane, right? I think
he was at Tulane, yes.
What were his pass rush? What did the tape look like in terms of pass rush? I'm curious about what he saw. Now, Kyron Johnson became a pass rusher last year with Kansas because of out of necessity. Mm-hmm. And then his pro day, he was the Senior Bowl to get himself on the map, and his pro day workout was phenomenal.
Right. And
he's a 6th-round pick. Now, the problem is he's smaller. But I find it interesting. Reddick smaller, Kyron Johnson smaller.
Mm-hmm.
Kaiser White smaller.
Yep,
they're all explosive. I understand Kaiser White's an inside backer or inside player. He's a tackler, whereas the other two guys are explosive. And by the way, Nakobe Dean could flat out blitz. He's got explosiveness to him.
Blitzing linebackers? What's that?
I know. No, that's a question. Will they do it? We don't know, because Gannon. We've talked to people who've worked with him in the past. They say he believes he can win with scheme, that the scheme will free guys up. We'll see about that. He clearly doesn't agree with Mike Zimmer. Mike Zimmer would blitz. So
Sure.
we'll see. We'll see what he. Well, there's so much we need to learn. We think we have a good idea, but as we learned last year, you think you might know one thing, and then when you don't have enough talent, you do other things. Now, there's no excuse this year with talent. Gannon and his group of coaches, they've been given a lot of talent here.
So I'll be curious to see if a concept is introduced to the defense known as like the green dog, which is
Yeah.
It's a linebacker blitz that's not a blitz. It's only a blitz if the running back basically leaves the backfield. So there's nobody there for pass protection, and you tell the linebacker, well, don't worry about covering the running back. Instead, you just go straight up and rush the quarterback.
Green dog,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, green dog.
I remember Charles Cosell showed me this at NFL Films years ago.
Mm-hmm.
They must have said it hundreds of times. Oh, he just green dogged.
Mm-hmm.
That's when the guy goes on his own because he sees the quarterback freed up. Go green dog it. I wonder who came up with that term.
I have no idea, but I know that the Saints do a lot of that. They used to, at least. With Dennis Allen, they'll do a lot of that with their green dog. And sometimes offenses want that. They'll purposely design a play where their running back does not stay in the block in order to invite the blitz so that they can throw quickly to the line to the running back in the flat and have him kind of in more open space because they know the linebackers are blitzing. So it's a good cat and mouse game, but it is something that I could see Jonathan Gannon maybe integrating into this defense because he's got some linebackers who have a nose for the quarterback. So we'll have to see.
One thing before we move to the defensive back group,
mm-hmm.
The thing that I really like is when they're playing rundowns. I know Dean is smaller, but he could tackle. We know Edwards could play rundowns. That's how he got the 1-year extension. When you get Tartt in, we'll talk about Tartt in a minute. He's not strictly a box player. He can play back, as we outlined in our show earlier this week, our ITB TV, but he can hit and he can tackle. Mm-hmm. To me, they're going to be more physical defense they have been in years past, potentially.
We shall see. All right. If you find yourself, fellas, fumbling in the bedroom, you're not alone. Millions of men will experience some form of ED, and it can feel defeating. Maybe you're like us and you've tried pills or diets or exercises, but we found something clinically proven to help you get back in the game. Meet Eddie, a discreet device designed to help you strengthen and maintain your erection so you can break through the O-line again. Pills can be expensive and have a long-term side effect, so we checked out eddybygiddy.com and found that over 95% of men experience positive results wearing Eddie, according to a 2021 clinical trial. So grab life by the balls and stop getting sacked by ED. Sign up for a subscription at buyeddy.com/insidethebirds. That's BUYEDDIE.com/insidethebirds and save 20% on your first device with promo code IB20. With free device resizes and a 60-day guarantee, you'll be glad you tried it. Treat ED with Eddie at buyeddy.com/insidethebirds. All right, we move on to cornerback, which is a fascinating position here, Adam, for the Eagles, as it's very top heavy.
Yes, I need to calm down a little bit after your last.
You didn't enjoy that,
honey? Do it now.
Did my device come in? Yours looks like a Cheerio, I heard, Adam. No, I'm just kidding.
I have no comment on that. Anyway, look, it's they're not deep on the outside of corner. You know, they added James Bradbury to a 1-year deal, $7.25 million fully guaranteed signing, was upside to 10.
Right.
He was, as we were told, he was looking for 10 million. He won't get that unless certain things happen. They got Darius Slay, who signed through 23. This is just crazy. We're doing research for these contracts. I had to check with someone to make sure I was right.
Mm-hmm.
His cap number this season is 9.73 million, which is very palatable.
Mm-hmm.
26.01 million in 23 after his latest restructure.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you say 26 million?
Yes.
0.01 million.
I'm told it's right. 26 million, over 26 million in 23. You got to bring that number down.
Wow.
You got to extend his contract. He's been durable. He's been a very good Eagle. This is a really good trade they got from Detroit.
Yep.
I mean, you can't have him because here's the problem. His base salary, this is crazy, 1.12 million this season. If they took, what happened was they took his base, which was over 15 million, and converted almost all of it to the yeah, exactly, just under 15 million to a signing bonus.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, when you do that, you jack up future cap numbers.
Yes.
So his cap number this year's 9.731 million, goes to 20 over 26 million in 23.
Well, I can only imagine what it looks like if they have to cut him. Jeez.
Oh, I can't exactly, because then it gets accelerated. It's bigger than Wentz's. So the cap hit that they took. So they it would behoove them also. You mentioned Hargrave earlier in the show.
Mm-hmm.
Probably want to extend him at some point before March.
Right. Right.
So he's been, boy, what a trade that he's played very well, particularly last season. And I just think they're playing with fire here. This is a pretty good roster. I know that we'll see how the quarterback plays and all the new players play together.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how Gannon does in the second year of the scheme. The fact of the matter is the front office has done its job. But the one issue that I have is that third outside corner, by a miracle last season, Slay and Nelson stayed healthy, relatively healthy.
Mm-hmm.
They got lucky, because right now I know Zach McPhearson's the 3 for now, third outside corner. Do you really want him if someone gets hurt being that guy?
I'm not so sure, and we've got a lot to find out. I'm not so sure that Jimmy Moreland couldn't do it for a game or two, especially if you're playing more, either quarters or 2 shell coverages where you've got that safety protection, because usually then you don't mind your corner being a little on the slower side as long as they're physical and can redirect, and that's sort of what Jimmy Moreland does best. Why he's also a very good nickel, or not, I shouldn't say very good, but why he's a good nickel corner, because he can do that too, and you need that inside. But I thought the Moreland addition was interesting. I'm not saying he's a sure shot to make the team, but because he's played in the NFL and he has experience, I feel like, I don't know, go give me any other NFL team's number 3 outside corner. Is he that much better than Jimmy Moreland? It's not a position where teams have tremendous depth at.
Okay, on your point, for him to earn, he has to be not good, really good to make it. Why? His base salary is 2.54 million. That's a lot.
It is a lot.
That's a lot for a guy who's now on his 3rd team in 3 years.
Right.
We know they've liked him for a couple of years. I totally get that, but he's going to have to play up to it. And at the very least, Moreland should give competition to McPhearson. I'm interested. I didn't hear much about him. I don't know about you, but I didn't hear much about him in the offseason. But when it really matters in training camp, I'm curious about how the competition between, well, right now McPhearson's the clear 3, but can Moreland push him?
Can Moreland push him? Can Gowan, who they did like a couple of years ago, they did. I was told they wanted to draft him. They wanted to pick in somebody else, but they had him in that neighborhood of where they were drafting. What was that? The 6th round? Who did they wind up taking? I guess maybe Teron Jackson.
I don't remember.
Instead, which isn't surprising, because they always favor defensive linemen, or linemen. But yeah, Mac McCain. I mean, maybe I'm sure they're just hoping that somebody's got tools that they can work with here.
And they're longer corners. They're either 6 or 6'1", somewhere between 6 and 6'1". These not Moreland, but McCain and Gowan.
Right.
Josh Jobe and Mario Goodrich, who they gave some money to. The good thing is they're definitely going to have a competition, but what are they, just what they look like on paper, 4s and 5s instead of 3s. They need 3s in a big way. Well,
listen, I can tell you right now, no matter how much hype they come with or talent that they might have and something knocked them down, whatever, I'm not banking on a Josh Jobe or a Mario Goodrich to come in and be the number 3 corner and potentially have a start if there's an injury. There's just no way that's happening. So it's really, to me, down to McPhearson, Gowan, and McCain and Moreland.
And Josiah Scott he's got a chance to be the backup slot to Maddox.
Yep.
What we're told. And Craig James is still on the team. This is 4 years this guy's been on the team. Wow.
Boy, he had that moment against Green Bay, and ever since then.
Yep. Right? Hey, where's Sidney Jones? Can't find. All right, James, get in. Remember that? They found him. They couldn't find Sidney Jones.
Unbelievable.
Ridiculous.
All right, so that's the cornerback picture. I think we probably covered the safety picture already. There's Anthony Harris on the 1 year, 2.5, only $1 million fully guaranteed.
Yep.
You have Marcus Epps, who's really important because it's also the last year of his rookie deal. He's very cheap right now, less than $1 million. He's going to get opportunities no matter what. And then they bring in Tartt, and they've got Kevon Wallace, and obviously a huge year for Kevon to prove that he belongs on the team.
Yeah. So what we're told with the Tartt deal, the Chakowski Tartt deal,
Yes.
when it gets done, when he signs it, he agreed to terms immediately. When last week, like once the deal was done, it was done in terms of verbally. But once he signs it, what we understand, it'll be similar to the one that Anthony Harris signed. Now, what helped him get more than $1 million, more than a veteran minimum, is strictly because of we're told multiple teams are involved. Oh, and also remember, he's back with his college teammate from Stanford, James Bradbury, and Bradbury apparently had some good things to say about the Eagles in his limited time here. And they're good friends, so that has something to do with it. Can't put a percentage on it, but that's part of it. And this guy could hit, man. He could tackle, he could hit. He's played free, he's played strong, he's a better box player. The reason why the Niners didn't bring him back is simple: too many injuries. But the guy's a good football. His tape is good. It's just that you can't keep paying a guy not to be on the field. 31 games missed over a 4-year period as a full-time starter. It's not good. It's not acceptable. I get that.
Right.
But as a third safety to bring in competition, it should be, by the way, behind Harris, because he's more of a strong safety like Harris is.
Right. See, I'm trying to, what does that mean? I mean, they signed Anthony Harris pretty quickly in free agency. They made that decision that they wanted to, and yet they signed Chakowski Tartt very deep into the offseason, but give him a contract that could pay him as much as Anthony Harris makes.
Well, again, it's why are they mirroring it, or somewhat mirroring it, Harris? Because if there was only one team there, now I don't know if the Eagles would know this, or maybe they did. Maybe they knew other teams were involved. But when you've got 2 or 3 teams involved, you're not going to overpay for a guy who right now comes into training camp as most likely Harris's backup.
Right.
And we'll see what the rotation looks like, because he could play both. But with him most likely behind Harris, the guarantee, by the way, on both players' guarantees are small. As we talked early Thursday morning, we don't know exactly what the guarantee is. But Harris got only $1 million fully guaranteed at signing of the $2.5 million.
Right.
But he's got experience. It got to start in the Super Bowl. And when you've got a bunch of teams involved, you want to try to beat the other teams, but you have to be disciplined. Like with Andre Roberts, to give you an example, the Eagles were one of 3 teams involved. The Eagles were only going to pay him the veteran minimum. They had a number in mind. They were not going to go over it. That's how you keep your cap in shape it needs to be in.
Right.
Your cash expenditures in one area. It's one thing to say up to $2.5 million. The real money is $1 million. That's what the real money is.
It's value,
as you said.
It's valuation versus evaluation. Right.
Right. It's evaluation versus the reality of that. They're not really paying the guy. He's got to make certain thresholds to get that $2.5 million. So,
right.
I like the signing. He was by far the best safety out there, but why the Niners weren't bringing him back. They're not going to keep paying a guy not to be on the field. That's why he's better as a third safety. As we said on the other show, you can play him in big nickel if they want to play big nickel. He's got some versatility. And Harris has not been quite what we all thought. And I think you and I said this last year, that he had that one big year which was an aberration with the interceptions. He was never going to duplicate that. No one can really.
Right.
In today's NFL because of the advantages that offenses have. And as you've been saying for like 50 years now, you would wish they draft and develop somebody to safety position.
It would be nice.
But Wallace is the guy. We'll see if he makes it. He's not guaranteed to make the team.
Right. And then, of course, there's Jared Maiden and Andre Chachere, who are good special teams players. So they have a chance to be on the 53, especially Chachere, who was given a little bit of guaranteed money because of what they do on special teams. So you always have to say there's a spot for one of them.
Sure.
So they may not be as good as a Kevon Wallace as a defensive player, but they may be way better special teams. And then also if they're on an equal level, that might force a guy like Wallace out. We'll see. I don't know. I'm just talking numbers and camp battles, and we'll have that discussion. All right, we'll finish it off with special teams real quick. We want to tell everybody to make sure you're checking out our friends at PHLSportsNation.com. They're enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams for the fan, by the fan. That's their motto. So make sure you check them out at PHLSportsNation.com and on Twitter at PHLSportsNation. Let's pause real quick for a word from our other great sponsors, including our friends at Sky Motor Cars. And if you hop into Sky Motor Cars out there in Westchester, PA, make sure you tell them Adam and Jeff sent you. You'll get a great deal.
That's it. You could sell your car to them, folks. I mean, and this is the best time in our lifetime to sell a used car. It just
absolutely is.
Really is, with this damn chip shortage.
That's
and
right.
They will treat you well, man. I've heard some good feedback from the people who've gone. And just to myself, we sold 2 cars through them a couple years ago. So check them out in Westchester.
Please do it. Tell them we sent you. All right, special teams. So we talked a little bit last pod. Punt returner, kick returner, punt returning. We talked about Britton Covey, the rookie free agent from Utah. Going to get a chance to showcase what he can do as both a return specialist and a slot receiver. And of course, there's Jalen Reagor, who, I mentioned in one of the pods that the feedback we've been getting is that he's been having a very focused, very good OTAs. You've even heard more, right?
Yeah, I heard like his security on the punt returns he didn't drop one, and they understand every practice the specialists are getting maybe 10, 15 or so returns, and he didn't drop any of them, and real focused in his third year here. And he's under contract for an additional year. I'm still dubious whether they'll trade him or not. I know our sources say like they really strangely don't want to trade him. I don't know why they wouldn't want to trade him. I mean, it's not like they won't listen. We reported first that Baltimore talked to him about him, but they've kind of given out the vibe they want to see. Like, but the point again is this. Okay, let's push this forward here with Reagor. Let's just say he's on the team. We know they're not going to cut him. That's out of the question. Right. Well, let's just say he does make the team. It's either him or Covey, because that's what we're told. It's either one of them for punt returns. Greg's special teams, Greg's fair catch ward, really not in the picture. He can do it, but he'll catch it, but he won't run. Fair catch is too much. Right. But as a receiver, he's no better than the fifth. Come on. Right.
As it currently stands, I would agree with you. Unless he translates it into training camp, preseason, and they're more convinced that he's ready to be that guy. Because remember, they don't have a definitive slot guy. They're going to go with Quez Watkins. Coach like Quez Watkins. They're going to
that's his vertical guy.
See what he does there as a vertical slot, but they may not be the best option for the slot. And at the other side, Zach Pascal may not be a guy you want playing 65 to 70% of your snaps.
Oh, he won't be. No, yeah,
no, right. So I don't want to say there's no opportunity. It's just it's an uphill climb. But if Jalen Reagor was 30% better than what he was last year, and you're seeing like improvement there, then you're probably going to want to try to see what he can do on the field with the ball in his hands a little bit.
Right. I really his punt return tape was so dynamic as his funny or TCU.
College, yeah.
I remember watching that tape, and I was like, this kid. It's just like everyone saw. Cosell liked him. A lot of the people we spoke to after the draft, though a lot of teams we talked to had a lower grade than the Eagles did. Or let's put this way, they had a lower grade where the Eagles wound up taking him.
Right.
But the tape was the tape. The tape was good in college. I know there were issues with his ball security. Get that. It's true. You just wonder if he's on the team. Can he, as you were talking about, just be 30, 40% better than last year?
Right.
That got some dressing every week and contributing potentially as a punt returner. He could play inside or outside. He's explosive.
You're in the mix, as we like to say. If you're 30 to 40% better, you're in the mix. All right, kick return, which is like less of a, to me, as we've gone on throughout the years, they've really lessened the impact of the kick returner in the game, but still got to have someone who can get the job done.
Yeah.
We've seen Boston Scott do it in the past. We know Kenny Gainwell can do it. And then they've got this kid from Oregon, the hurdler, Devin Allen.
Yeah. And Allen got $40,000 fully guaranteed at signing, which is nothing. He's not guaranteed to be on the field.
Right.
Straight line speed is amazing, dynamic. You wonder if he could take that world-class speed and earn a roster spot, because their special teams returns were pathetic last season. Let's call it like it is. They were bad. Yeah. The coverage team's decent. We'll get to the kicker and the punter. But the one area on specials they just could not get going were the return game, and just be respectable with it.
Now, here's the thing. If Devin Allen, right? Devin?
Yes.
If Devin Allen looks like a really good kick returner,
okay,
but cannot do anything else, not a good receiver, gets redirected, doesn't run great route. Like, if the only thing he proves to be is a good straight line speed runner, which is a kick returner. Do you put him on your 53 for that?
Well, here's the thing. They were going to sign Andre Roberts to do both punt and kick. He would have
Right.
been on the team if they signed him, even if there was no guaranteed money. If he was his old self, he was going to be on the team.
Sure, but we also know Andre Roberts in a pinch could play wide receiver and know what to do and give you that professional approach to the position. Devin Allen's not, if I'm not even sure, having not no football in 6 years, if how good he really is,
Yeah, less meaningful, healthy football was in 16. Yeah,
right.
Years, my goodness gracious.
That's a long time.
I would say, look, they brought him in. His workout numbers were fantastic. I'm going to say he would be on the team if he's great as a kickoff returner. Covey apparently has got great ball security. He's aggressive as a punt returner, which they like. He's got great short area quickness, which is what you're looking for as a punt returner.
You can still pull guys up from the practice squad, right, on game day a couple times a year.
Sure, you've got the what's the term?
The elevations. So that to me, I think that to me is the best that Devin Allen can do. Unless he's just
it's actually a good idea. I just thought of it. Right, I haven't thought about it. That's actually a really good idea. If he doesn't make it, they still owe him the $40,000 anyway, which they put $40,000 in his base salary, fully guaranteed.
Sure,
it's paid anyway.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's a fair point. And then the punter and kickers, it's Sipos for the 50th time. It's
Sipos.
Yes. I keep getting corrected on it, but so I'm like, all right, I'm going to get it right. Sipos. His value. Look, we know he started off well, then he really tanked.
Mm-hmm.
The other parts of his game, I know these are minor, but we're going to go inside football here. Really good holder, we're told.
Mm-hmm.
The other part of it is this. I remember hearing this years ago from a special team coach I ran into out west on my training camp tour. What they said was, not only is it important if you have a good holder, that'll help you make it. How is he if he's got to throw the ball on a fake, or he drops the snap, but the snap's over his head? He's got to get it and just throw it if somebody's open.
Mm-hmm.
He's got that ability to throw the football. Apparently, that's important when you evaluate for special teams. I know it's small, and that rarely happens, but that is part of the when you evaluate a punter. But the other part of it is, can they get him to be above average? Which he certainly looked like he was going to be well above average.
Mm-hmm.
Then second half of the season, he regressed.
Right.
But to this point, they've not brought anyone in.
Well, that was surprising. I thought maybe they would bring somebody in, but they must feel pretty confident. They fixed Jake Elliott from 2 years ago, and I'm sure they're going to put a lot of work in with Aaron Sipos to fix him as well. We will see. Kicker, Jake Elliott, long snapper, Rick Lovato, not much to go through there. Those guys, that's your triangle, your triumvirate for special teams in there. And so that's it. This was really meaty. A lot of good stuff. I hope everybody really appreciates, the in-depth, comprehensive look we took at this defense, from positional versatility to scheme to contract and what awaits at training camp. So it's been a fun 2-part series with you, Adam. This one was defense. Again, if you haven't checked out the offensive one, that came out before this one on Monday morning, so check that out as well. And that'll do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles intel. Big thanks to our producer, Tyler Strasser, new guy, doing a great job with us on everything we do. Thanks, Tyler. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the bird.